order. Can I get someone to approve the agenda, please, or move the agenda?
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
Second?
Second.
Excellent. Pick a choice. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Counterminded? Carried. Next, we have some minutes from February 27th. Would someone like to move those minutes?
So moved.
Thank you. Second?
Second, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Any
Mr. Mayor,
comments?
can
Yes.
I mention that there may be sort of a mistake on the minutes there?
Yep, go ahead.
Okay, 23-19, on a motion by Councillor Von Granter.
Yep.
Seconded by Councillor Charles Pender.
Yep.
He
I
couldn't
didn't
do
second
that. He couldn't second
Yeah,
that.
no, I think it was fixed. What's the?
Okay,
So who was
Okay.
that? Seconded by, was it by Deputy Mayor?
Oh, I know what
No.
it is.
no,
Yeah,
Pam,
Okay.
okay, perfect.
Councillor
Okay.
Keefe.
No, I got a paper copy. Yes.
yeah, I didn't get the, sorry about that.
No sweat? Anything else?
No.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Counterminded? Carried. Business arising from the minutes. We did have a question, I think, Councillor Pender, about whether or not there was an investigation under the
Oh,
code of
yeah.
conduct once before.
Yeah, that's
Mr.
not in the minutes.
Cumbie,
Mr.
do you know if there was?
Not under this, no, not under this code of conduct.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, I didn't hear that. Not under?
Mr. Cumbie?
Not under this particular code of conduct, right?
Since May of 2021,
Yeah, there was, well, since May 2021.
or 20,
No, that's correct, I think.
Yeah,
this
May
is
2021 was-
that's when it came in, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
we haven't had one under that,
Oh.
that I'm aware of.
No,
Interesting. Okay.
no.
Thank you.
Next, proclamations. We had a few things to declare. March was declared as Amyloidosis Awareness Month. I might be saying that wrong. It's a group of diseases that occurs when an abnormal protein known as an amyloid builds up in the tissues and organs of the body. Left untreated, the disease can result in organ failure and can be fatal, and that was declared for March. March 6th was declared as World Lymphedema Day, and lymphedema is a chronic and debilitating disease characterized by an accumulation of lymphatic fluid. It causes swelling of the arms, legs, and other areas of the body, which can cause disfigurement, disabilities, discomfort, pain, distress, and impair quality of life. So there's those two things. Something else that came in, I just wanted to mention as well, I did receive word from someone to congratulate as well, the men's curling club championship, the team, the Brook team. And Baz Buckles rink. He's won, of course, back-to-back World Seniors curling titles, 2004, 2005, from our own curling club. And his team, Bob Freeman, Jerry Young, Harvey Holloway, was the first NL team to win the World Curling Championship. Since that time, he's been on many national events. The person who sent this in said as well, Baz will be 75 this April. Well, I don't, that's something to be proud of, considering this past week he skipped a team from Brook, going 7-0, defeating some very strong teams, including Goose Bay, Port aux Basques, Gander, and St. John's. Defeated Alex Smith at St. John's, 8-6 in extra innings in the final. Exceptional play with his teammates Mike Mullins, Blair Fragem, and Dennis Bruce. And the Curling Club Championship is targeted primarily at club curlers that are not competing in provincial tankers to make the Brier. It is eligible for curlers 19 and older. So the national event features 14 teams representing each member association, 10 provinces, 3 territories, and Northern Ontario. So congratulations, still playing at a very high level. Next, the updates. I don't have an agenda here, but I assume this is Councillor Grant, is it?
Yes, it is, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, it is. Okay, Councillor Gregor, tell us about our update on a new hybrid.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Fleet vehicles assigned to city departments normally need replacement after 10 years, depending on their mechanical and appearance issues. As such, to protect the services, hybrid Toyota Prius is set to be retired from the fleet and needs replacement. In the spring of 2022, a public tender was issued for the purchase of a hybrid gas electric SUV. The tender to the local dealership of Western Toyota for a total of $41,584.54, inclusive of all taxes. In the fall of 2022, we were advised that there was a delay and possible cancellation of the supply of this vehicle due to supply chain issues related to COVID. We have since been advised that Western Toyota will supply this hybrid vehicle in May 2023. This motor vehicle is a hybrid gas-electric. It will self-generate its electricity and operate on that electricity, thus lessening fossil fuel consumption. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Any questions on that? That's good. Things are starting to move again, so that's great. Next, we have Councillor Pender, a RFD on the O'Connell Drive pedestrian crossing improvements tender.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Tenders were invited for improvements to the O'Connell Drive pedestrian crosswalk. Work under this contract generally includes the removal of the existing pedestrian crossing traffic signals and associated equipment on O'Connell Drive between Crestview Avenue and French's Road. Supply and installation of new traffic signal equipment, including concrete controller foundation, traffic controller and cabinet, concrete traffic pole bases, traffic poles and arms, traffic signal heads, pedestrian push buttons and steel bollards, curbing modifications to accommodate new pole locations, pedestrian ramps with tactile walking surface indicators, asphalt patching, and associated work. Installation of a 30-foot service pole, traffic control junction box, and associated electrical installation. In other words, we're putting in a new set of traffic crossing lights, I guess, pedestrian crossing lights at this location. Tenders closed for the O'Connell Drive pedestrian cross improvement contract number 2023-01 on February 22nd, 2023, with 3 bids received from the following, including 15% HST. Number 1, Eco Contracting Limited in the amount of $201,012.24. Number 2 was West Coast Excavating and Equipment Company Limited in the amount of $312,012.25. And thirdly, we have Brook Construction 2007, Inc. for the amount of $388,734.50. Proposed resolution be resolved that the Corner Brook City Council approve the lowest bid of $201,012.24, HST included, from Eco Contracting Limited for the O'Connell Drive pedestrian crossing improvements, contract number 2023-01. I so move.
Thank you. Seconder? Seconded. Questions on this one?
I have no question, I just have a comment. It's good to see that it's addressing our accessibility for the residents of the city. It's good to see that we're moving that direction with this one.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor?
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
Or Charles?
Oh, no, I was just going to ask, Mr. Mayor, because I know we have some problems with the poles on Lewin Parkway to getting those poles. So I'm just wondering if we're going to have the same issue with this one. I know we probably don't have an answer, but just, I don't know, Mr. Charters can address it.
Charters?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I'm hoping that's why one of the reasons we called the tenders so early, so they could order the equipment. I don't know the supply issues. It's tough to say at this point.
Okay, thank you.
We're hoping for this summer.
Okay.
Thank you. Yes, Councilor Gill.
A number of months ago, a resident wrote to me about a safety issue at the intersection of O'Connell Drive and West Valley Road, where the crosswalk and the lights for the crosswalk are on the right. If you're facing the hospital, they're on the right-hand side. And so the pedestrians crossing there are crossing the most possible streams that they could be crossing against. And that person was wondering if the crosswalk couldn't be moved to the other side so that it would be, out of harm's way, so to speak, of the right turning traffic onto West Valley Road. And so I just wanted to flag that was an issue that was brought up about crosswalks. And the other thing I wanted to mention is, so this one is the crosswalk by the convenience store. Yep. The one that's by College and North Atlantic, is that one in better shape than the one that we're ameliorating right now? Or will we eventually have to address that second crosswalk that's down from this one?
Mr. Charters?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. I believe when we had our traffic signals assessed a number of years ago, 2018, I believe, that was higher priority. That equipment was failing. It was very old, outdated, that type of stuff. So I don't know where the other one is on the priority list, but I can definitely check that out.
Yeah, I mean, Mr. Mayor, it's not a bad thing for us to just have a look at all the crosswalks. I mean, maybe that's something that staff do regularly, but, it begs, I'm just asking the question.
Yeah, we do have I'm not sure, I can't remember the scope of it, but I know it did was it 11 intersections and then a number of crosswalks,
Yep.
Mr. Charters?
Yep.
That was a few years ago. There's a good report at Harborside. It's very comprehensive.
Okay,
Yeah,
I'm gonna
it's
have a
really-
look at that.
Yeah. But I'm sure since then, some have deteriorated further, so.
Thank
Any other
you.
questions?
Just a comment too,
Yes.
Mr. Mayor. I'm just looking at the quotes there, like the winning one is 201 and the third one is 388. It seems to be quite the difference.
Yeah.
So can we assume we're going to get even, it is the same product that we're getting, so to speak, it's not a cheaper, because it just seems crazy for that much of a difference in the two.
Mr. Charters?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, the process when we do get the tender documents in from the bidders, our staff reviews them as well as the consultant to make sure that they haven't missed anything in case something like this happens, but they reviewed it and everything's fine.
Perfect, thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Let's call for the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Counter-minded? Carried. Next, Councillor Granter, we have some extrication gear.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Corner Brook Fire Department requires replacement of its backup extrication tools. Its current backup tool set is over 20 years old and is no longer reliable and hard to source replacement parts. In fact, the system pump has a temporary fix that is keeping it serviceable. The Corner Brook Fire Department have been researching product options and sought competitive quotes to supply a replacement tool set. These new tools are rechargeable battery powered as compared to our current gasoline powered hydraulic pump equipment. Only two suppliers met the Corner Brook Fire Department product specifications, that being Pantheon and Hearst. Of these two suppliers, Hearst is offering the lowest price to preferred product and immediate delivery. The vendor, Safety Source Fire, the model was Pantheon, and the quote was $63,845.19. MES Code 4 Fire and Rescue, Hearst, for $63,232.75. Be it resolved, Mr. Mayor, that the council approved the purchase of Hearst model extrication tools from MES Code 4 Fire and Rescue for the price of $63,232.75, HST included, for use by the Corner Brook Fire Department. So moved, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much.
Second.
Seconder?
Second, Mr. Mayor?
Okay. Questions on this one? Yes.
Are they local companies or are they
Mr. Flynn?
Both vendors for this product are mainland companies.
mainland companies?
Other question?
Yeah, I'm just looking at it, and it says, Corner Brook Fire Department have been researching product options and sought competitive quotes, so they would do their own?
Sorry?
They would go and get their own quotes? Can they do that?
Mr. Flynn, maybe you could tell us how that
Yes,
process
I couldn't hear the question.
It reads that the Corner Brook Fire Department has been researching product options and sought competitive quotes.
Yes.
So they would do that on their own without,
Yes, under my
Direct-
direction, yes.
oh, okay. That's where I was going with it, thank you. Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions?
I was just going to say, Mr. Mayor, what's the common name for this piece of equipment?
Mr. Flynn?
It's commonly referred to jaws of life as what
Just so
most
people
know
understand
it.
what it is we're talking about, Mr. Mayor.
Any other
Yeah,
questions? Yeah.
yeah, that's just a brand name, like, it's like we call all our soft drinks Coke, right? They're not all,
ASA is asking.
yeah.
Okay, yes?
Just asking, when will it be available?
Mr. Flynn?
It's actually available immediately.
Okay, perfect.
Okay. Other questions? Okay, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Counter-minded? Carried. Next, Councillor Gill, we have the next step in municipal plan amendment and development rate change.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just for some background information, the Planning Department has received an application to rezone 21 Mount Bernard Avenue from community service to residential low density. The developer is proposing to reuse the vacant building, formerly Presentation School, to develop 24-unit apartment complex. Due to the nature of the community services zone, this development cannot be considered without a rezoning. This proposal requires map amendments to both the Integrated Municipal Sustainability Plan and development regulations, as well as a text amendment in the development regulations. Rezoning this area from community service to residential low density is proposed to achieve the best and highest use for these lands. The location is in very close proximity to Corner Brook's downtown core and requires no major changes to the land. Therefore, there should be little in terms of environmental impacts from its redevelopment. The property has established parking and access and is already connected to municipal water and sewer infrastructure, which will further limit sprawl. I like that word, sprawl. By considering the amendment, the city will increase density in its core, continue to diversify the housing stock within the city, and help promote the development of residential living quarters during the housing shortage within the city. This is the final council reading of this amendment. Staff have completed the public consultation under Section 14 under the URPA 2000. I don't know what that is. What's the URPA 2000?
Urban Rural Planning.
Oh, good, thank you very much. And no feedback was received. In accordance with Section 15 of the Act, the Local Governance and Planning Division of the Department of Municipal and Provincial Affairs issued their release of the proposed amendments on January 25th, 2023. Staff gave notice of adoption by advertisement inserted on the 22nd day of February 2023 and the 1st day of March 2023 in the West Coast Wire newspaper flyer. No objections or representations with respect to this amendment were received within the time stipulated in the notice. Staff, with respect to this amendment, no objections or representations with respect to this amendment were received within the time stipulated in the notice. Therefore, staff canceled the scheduled public hearing. Oh, and there's more. Proposed resolution. Number 1, approve proposed map for amendment number 2201 to the City of Corner Brook's Integrated Municipal Sustainability Plan 2020-12. Number 2, approve proposed map and text amendment number 2201 to the City of Corner Brook's 2012 Development Regulations. Number 3, authorize staff to submit the proposed amendments to the provincial government for ministerial approval and registration. And number 4, authorize staff to give statutory notice of registration of the amendments following ministerial approval and registration under number 3.
Okay. Would someone
That's it.
like to say
So
that?
moved.
Second, Mr. Mayor.
I guess I'm moving it.
Thank you, that's right. Yeah, it's
So moved.
stuck there at the bottom of the page. Okay, questions on this one?
Yeah, one question, Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
24-unit apartment complexes, are there restrictions on that? Is it a senior complex or is it a general apartment complex for any age group? Students, seniors, working couples, singles?
Mr. Chair, I don't think so.
Anything come in on the planning for that?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I don't believe it's restricted for certain clients, but I can find that out. I don't believe it is.
Okay, yes, any other questions? This is, again, another step along the line to the approval. I think this is the final one now before it goes into effect, so,
Good to see, Mr. Mayor, sorely needed.
absolutely.
How long will that take, Mr. Mayor, before they get, like, this is approved?
I don't know, Mr. Charters, how long typically does it take to get done and gazetted and all that?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, typically this process moves quickly now.
Okay.
Once we get the minute of council, we send it into the provincial planning office and they gazette it, and it happens rather quickly. I don't know the time frame, but it's a matter of weeks, not months now.
Because I would sort of think they'd want to start some kind of development, once the weather is better, so you wouldn't want
Yeah.
this to take very long, right?
Well, this has gone through, I think, fairly quickly compared to many
Yeah.
zoning changes I've seen, so it's good.
Okay.
Okay, if there are no other questions, all those in favor?
Aye.
Counterminded? Carried. Okay. Councilor Griffin, we are rescinding stop work order on 18 Humber Road.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Since the previous meeting of council, the following stop work order has been rescinded by the Department of Community, Engineering, Development and Planning, and therefore must be confirmed by council pursuant to Section 102.3 of the Urban and Rural Planning Act. Order number 2023-02 Date of issue, February 23rd, 2023. Civic address, 18 Humber Road. The violation, Section 8 of the City of Cornbrook Development Regulations. The order was to issue a stop work order. Since the issuance of order number 2023-02, the proponent has compiled with the stop work. Sorry?
I think it's the type is supposed to be complied.
Yeah, okay. Yes, there you go. The proponent has complied with the stop work order and permits are ready to be issued. Therefore, order number 2023-02 can now be rescinded under section 102.3 of the Urban and Rural Planning Act 2000. Proposed resolution in accordance with section 102.3 of the Urban and Rural Planning Act. The following stop work order is hereby rescinded by council order number 2023-02.
Thank you. The seconder on that?
Second, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Questions on this one? Anything? Okay, like I said, it's, at any time that the staff has to issue a stop work order or rescind it, it has to come back to council at the next meeting, so that's what we're doing here. Okay, so if there are no questions, all those in favor?
Aye.
Counterminded? Carried. Next, we have a discretionary use, 191 O'Connell Drive. Councilor Griffin, please.
Thank you again, Mr. Mayor. The City of Cornbrook has received an application to revert the building located at 191 O'Connell Drive into a 4-unit apartment building. This building is located in a general commercial zone and is currently a mixed-use building with 2 approved residential units as well as commercial space. An apartment building classification of use is a discretionary use of the City of Cornbrook Development Regulations for the aforementioned zone. A notice was delivered to the residents in the immediate area of 191 O'Connell Drive, as well as placed in the city's website indicating this request. As a result of this notice, no submissions were received. A site inspection by city staff has revealed that there is sufficient parking at this location to accommodate 4 residential units. Be it resolved that the Council of the City of Cornbrook approve the application to convert the building located at 191 O'Connell Drive to a 4-unit apartment building in accordance with Regulation 11. Discretionary powers of authority are so moved.
Okay.
Second that, Mr. Mayor.
Seconded, okay. Any questions on this one? Nothing?
No.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, this is the site that's right next to the lights that we're going to replace, I believe, isn't it?
It's very, yeah, very close. Any other questions? No? Okay. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Counterminded? Carried. Next, we have a Crown land application related to the Great Canadian Trail. Councilor Keeping.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The City of Cornbrook has received an application to utilize Crown land for the purpose of constructing, upgrading, and maintaining the Great Canadian Trail that follows the old rail bed within the City of Cornbrook. The proposed recreational trail goes through various zones, all of which permit recreational space. This application was referred to internal city departments, and there were no issues other than ensuring access for emergency vehicles in the event of an emergency along the trail, such as a fire or injury. The proposed resolution, it is resolved to approve the application to utilize Crown land located on the old rail bed within the City of Cornbrook for the purpose of constructing, upgrading, and maintaining the Great Canadian Trail. I so move.
Okay.
Second, Mr. Mayor.
Seconded. Questions on this one?
Mr. Mayor, just out of curiosity, so who will actually own the trailer? Does it remain in Crown Land's possession
The,
for those sections?
Yeah, Mr. Charters?
Yes, as I understand it, this would be a lease, like a long-term lease.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions there? So the, Mr. Charters, just, I know that we had previously a lease on some space there, I believe. Way back. I don't know if that's impacted by this or not.
I'm not sure, I'd have to.
I believe there's a lease space from the parking lot up as far, up through Pearl Gulch there.
could be, I
Yeah.
don't know.
Mr. Mayor, if I recall, a fair section was turned over to the city
Is lease.
of that. Part of it is leased, and part of it, yeah,
I think it's a
I can't
lease.
remember how it goes. But anyway, we're in control of part of it.
Yeah, so I guess this would replace that lease, I'm assuming.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Counterminded? Carried. Next, Regional Recreation Center change order number 23. Councilor Pender.
Mr. Mayor, before we begin?
Yes.
I'm in a conflict of interest.
You are indeed.
Thank you.
So you can refrain, but you can stay because it's a public meeting.
Thank you, sir.
Okay? Go
Good,
ahead.
okay. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Some background, for costs associated with applying a spray cementous coating to achieve the required fire rating of the existing level 2 structure to rectify the existing deficient condition. Refer to details in the correspondence, so I'm not going to go through all that. But suffice it to say, Mr. Mayor, they have to do a little bit of fireproofing on the existing level 2 section of the recreation center that they're currently building. So the motion is, be resolved that the Corner Brook City Council approve change order number 23 for the Regional Recreation Rec Center in the amount of $134,391.55, HST included, for Pomerleau Inc. I so move.
Okay, thank you. A seconder on that?
I'll second it, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Questions on this one?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, just, we've had numerous change orders on that particular facility. Shouldn't that have been something specific to this that should have come up in the pre-assessment, pre-engineering of, we all know that buildings, commercial buildings need fire retardant materials, sprayed on ceilings and those kinds of things. Shouldn't have this come up in the pre-assessment? It's an existing structure, or at least this says that the retardant material is for a existing structure. So sometimes it's bewildering that some of these changes are coming through in the hundreds of thousands of dollars, that some of them, to me, should have been picked up earlier on.
Mr. Charters?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. This is another one of those conditions that you can't see unless the building's stripped down. So, given it's a design build too, that's another factor. It wasn't something that anybody noticed during the initial investigations for this project. It would have been very difficult to do, as I understand it, to see that there was a lack of fireproofing in the area. It's typically you would assume that all these things have been done until you strip away some drywall or ceiling tiles, and then you discover these conditions. So unfortunately, this is another one of those conditions.
Okay. Yes?
I had a similar question to what Councillor Granter just brought up, but I guess go back to a couple of things that we assumed that this should be done. I mean, it's adding up. All of our change orders are adding up, and I'm like Councillor Granter, I can't understand why this would not be put into a proposal that was presented to us, you know? I'm at a loss.
Yeah. Any question or?
No, just I'm making a statement.
Yeah.
I don't
Yes,
think anybody can.
Councilor Pender.
Yeah, I agree with Councilor Granter and the Deputy Mayor. And it's interesting that I think one of the first change orders that was brought to us was the change of the pool walls that had to be removed because there was no reinforcement in it. And nobody seemed to have known that before the building was started. And yet there's pictures on the wall up at Grenfell campus of the building going up with no steel in the walls, in the concrete. So somebody must have been aware of this before it happened. But anyway.
Mr. Charters, were you aware of that?
No.
Oh, I've sent pictures. Like,
Oh, okay.
they're up there on the wall, just go look.
You can see from the pictures that there's no
Yeah, there's no
reinforcement.
steel coming out of the concrete, the blocks that they're under construction in 1975, I think it was. Was built. Well, it's not hard to see. Anybody can, and I think it was well known that that was that was an issue with the building since it was built.
Just take a look at the pictures there. and see.
Yeah.
But, Mr. Mayor, I just wanted to highlight, and I did speak to Director Charters before, just that the budget, the original contract was $22,091,500, and with all the change orders and so on, we're now up to, what is it, 24? No, that's our amount. We're up to $23,489,000. $1,824. So with this extra $134,391.55 plus $1,263,933.18 in the previous change orders, one of which, a substantial one, I think was one that we requested to have the facade change. That was about, I think, $500,000 in that ballpark.
I think so.
But I guess the point is, we're edging up close to the amount of money that we have available. We're not there yet, but if there's very many more change orders, we're going to be hitting the top limit of our budget for this project. But right now, it's still under. And so my question to Mr. Charters, through you, Mr. Mayor, is are we comfortable that we have enough to finish this project? Will there be any more change orders coming that will make us go over the budget?
Mr. Charters?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. It's a difficult question to answer. We have been, as staff and the owner's advisor, looking for ways to save money. We have, I'm going to say, nearly $100,000 in credits that council hasn't seen because they're below threshold. So the answer to the question is we are currently under budget. If we don't find anything else, then I'm comfortable saying that we can complete it on budget. But given the history of this project so far, I would be reluctant to say for sure.
And I guess, Mr. Mayor, I asked the question because I think most of the substantial amount of the work is done. I think the rest of it is filling it in, sort of thing, once the siding and everything goes on. So I'm crossing my fingers on that. I did have one other question, Mr. Mayor, on the actual operation of the facility. Where are we with a plan of how that facility will be operated? When can we expect, as a council, to be made aware of what the intent is to operate the facility? I know we have a new director, probably hasn't had time to go through all that yet, but I'm just curious because I'm not sure when the opening is scheduled for. I think it's next spring. Is that about right?
Substantial completion is scheduled for February 2024.
Okay, so between now and then, we obviously have to have something well in place, well in advance as how to operate the facility. So I'm just wondering when we'll get an update date. I don't expect to get one tonight.
And again, I know that Director Patton has been working on this, but Mr. Cumby?
Yeah, I know we've talked about this as early as yesterday. So there has been some discussions, many discussions, and we've narrowed this down quite substantially. There are just several issues now that we need to get ironed out, and I'm confident that we'll have something, within the next couple of months. It's just a matter of getting down and sharpening our pencils and getting down to the brass tacks of it. But most of the preliminary stuff is out of the way, and we have some I guess, final touches to put on it. But I know Director Patton has taken over the file as the main point person, but she has been in contact with her counterpart, and we're hopeful that this will get done within the next 6 weeks, 2 months.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Mayor, I'd just like to make one more comment as well.
Yes, indeed.
Director Charters referenced when I asked the first question with regard to the centre, that they're looking for ways to save money. I just want, it's not a caution, but we spent all of this money now to put in a very good facility, and I wouldn't want it to open up and all of a sudden within, like all new buildings or redeveloped buildings, people go in and say, well, it would have been nice if we had added that, or if that wasn't done this way, or we could have had that there, and those 2 or 3 items might simply have been, $150,000. I'll just pull that number out of the hat. And the response back to them in the public then would have been, well, it was initially in the plan, we thought about that, but at the end of it, because we're really tight on budget, we decided not to spend that other $125,000. And then 3 or 4 years down the road, we got to go in and do it, or add to it, or whatever it might be. So just a little bit of caution on what we're eliminating.
You're absolutely right, though. This building's going to be around for about 50 years
Right.
at least. So, I don't know, Mr. Charters, if you have anything to share on that, or Mr. Cumby?
Yeah, I'd just like to say, that I hear council and that it's the top priority, for us here as staff now, that, and right now we are focused on keeping this, as under budget, and some of these change orders, I guess, were unexpected. However, It is a design-build project, unlike a design-bid-build project. We're much more of this, where the actual builder is involved with the design of it. Different than a design-bid-build, which is a traditional method. So you do typically see more change orders in a situation like this because the building is being designed as you move along, as opposed to we go with full design first. So but having said that, I certainly understand what council is asking, and what we've talked about doing, especially with the wall, to investigate. We're still doing our own investigations right now as to, is there anything that should have been done, before by the other parties that are our partners in this? Should they have known, or should the testing have been done? And these are the things that we're working through. So I just wanted to let council know that we're involved in that right now.
Okay, Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
No, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. And so, I guess we're ready to vote?
Yeah.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Counterminded? Carried. Next, we have a noise regulation exemption for the Blame It On Broadway event.
I think you skipped one, Mr. Mayor.
Oh, did I?
Yes.
8.2.
Oh, I did, sorry. So excited, I was so eager to get to Blame It On Broadway. Instead of the Lewin Parkway
This was
intersection
important too.
improvements. Deputy Mayor, tell us about Lewin Parkway intersection improvements.
Okay, Lewin Parkway intersection improvements. Background information on this is due to a delay in the delivery of new pole supplies, install adapter plates designed by the engineer was required to accommodate the temporary installation of existing poles on new bases. So the proposed resolution, be it resolved that the Corner Brook City Council approve change order number 3 for the Lewin Parkway intersection improvement in the amount of $20,677. HST is included. I so move.
Second, Mr. Mayor.
Seconder, yes. Questions on this one?
Mr. Mayor, I did have a question. Oh, sorry. Sorry, Deputy Mayor.
No, you go ahead. What does it mean?
We'll start with
Mr.
that.
Charters, could you do it
Can
in
you
English
give me
for us?
a little summary of what that meant?
Through Mr. Mayor, again, we've been having troubles getting poles, and poles is a tough one. The aluminum poles is very difficult. So what we're doing now, on a temporary basis, is using the old poles, making a new base so it'll fit on the new bases, the concrete bases. This is a Band-Aid to get the intersections up and running as they should be, until we get the new poles.
So the new poles will be installed when they come in?
That's correct, yes.
And what is the cost on putting a Band-Aid on that pole? Is it expensive or?
Mr. Charters, I think that's what we're voting on.
Yeah.
Yeah, so all of it's going to cost $20,000 and, okay. I didn't know if that was for new poles or the Band-Aid. Okay.
Yes, Mr. Mayor? Yeah, no, the new poles are included in the original contract, so this is just a Band-Aid solution to get us through. And some people might be wondering why we don't just leave the stop signs, the four-way stops there. And I did mention to Mr. Charters, and he gave me a very valid reason why, and I'll let him speak to it. But a lot of people say, the four-way stops are working great, there's no problem there, but it doesn't work great for everyone. So I wonder if Mr. Charters can explain why we can't just leave the four-way stops there, for which safety reasons are involved?
Sure. Through you, Mr. Mayor. Typically, when traffic signals exist, there's a process that's gone through called a warrant system. If they weren't warranted, in other words, if there wasn't enough traffic, pedestrians, conflicts, there wouldn't be traffic signals there to begin with. The major reason don't get me started on four-way stops. The problem is there's no protection for pedestrians. At traffic signals, there's pedestrian protected phases, so it's safer for pedestrians. Now, some people may say, well, there's no way crossing down there. With the great trail installed this summer, and in the summer months, we expect a lot more pedestrian traffic in those areas.
Absolutely, Mr. Mayor, and I can attest, because I ride my bike down there quite a lot, there is a fair amount of pedestrian and other traffic there, and those signals are very, very necessary.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Counterminded? Carried. Now, Councilor Keating. It's time for Blame It on Broadway noise exemption.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The City of Corner Brook is enacting a temporary exemption to the City of Corner Brook noise regulation to conduct a public street party. The street party will be held at night when noise restrictions come into effect between 10 p.m. and 7 a.m. The regulation stimulates in Section 3, no person shall play or operate any radio, stereo folding equipment, or other instrument, or any apparatus for the production of amplification of sound, either in or on private premises or in any public place in any matter which unreasonably disturbs the quiet, peace, rest, enjoyment, comfort, or convenience of any person or persons on the same property on in the neighborhood or vicinity. The City of Corner Brook is enacting a temporary exemption to carry the street celebration between the hours of 7 a.m. 7 Friday, July 28th to 1 a.m. Saturday, July 29th, 2023. The street party will be held on Broadway and will start with outdoor music at 7 a.m. and conclude at 1. The City of Corner Brook noise regulations includes time frames when noise generating activities are prohibited, and a temporary exemption to these regulations will be required. Proposed resolution, be it resolved that the Council of the City of Corner Brook grant the enactment to the City of Corner Brook noise regulations in support of the 2023 Jigs and Wheels Festival to carry out a street party on Broadway. The bylaw exemption will be in effect from 7 on Friday, July 28th to 1 o'clock Saturday, July 29th, 2023 for the Broadway area. I so move.
Okay, seconder?
I'll
Second,
second.
Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Questions on this?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
am I confused about the timing? I'm reading it wrong, as I've been doing all evening. It says
Yes,
2,200 and 0700 hours come into effect between 10 p.m.
And 1 a.m.
Oh, sorry, when, never mind, those are when the restrictions normally are. Never mind, I misread it, thank you.
Anything else? Yes, go ahead, Deputy.
This is something that comes to us every time that there's something planned on Broadway. We usually get a lot of complaints from homeowners around the area that the music is loud and they're having difficulty because they have their windows open and things like that. So we're looking at doing 2 nights back-to-back, Friday and Saturday?
No.
Or is it just one night?
It's one night
Okay, Friday.
to 1 a.m. on Saturday.
10 p.m.
It's a 5-hour event from 7 till,
Saturday.
or 6 hours, I guess, 7 to 1.
Okay, so it's not 2 nights, so it's still going on till 1?
Yeah, well, that's what the exemption would be for.
Okay.
Yes?
Just, Mr. Mayor, I think last year we partnered with Xavier House, was it? Is that going ahead this year as well? Would that be the same arrangement, do we know?
Ms. Pat?
Mr. Mayor, we're actually put out a call for not-for-profits to be involved with,
Okay.
to be involved with different activities for Jigs and Wheels. We're just doing the framework. We have Blame It on Broadway as the kickoff event, and the committee's now putting together the structure for the rest of the week. So in order to make fair and have everything out, we've given other opportunities to groups to participate, and then the grant committee will look at the different offerings that have come forward. And just for clarity, the event, the music will probably stop around 11:30, 12 o'clock, and then give an hour for breakdown and cleanup. So everyone will move inside until they get to the bars.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
So the party on the street will stop at?
Ms. Pat?
We're asking for an exemption from 10 p.m. to 1 a.m. So for those 3 hours outside of what the normal bylaw would enact. So the music should stop around 11:30, 12, and give the hour for cleanup and
Okay.
clear the street. So then again,
Okay, thank you.
One question I had was, is this event designed for a Friday night and then a backup Saturday night if there's a weather issue or anything like that, or is that not possible?
that's discussions are ongoing now at the moment.
Okay.
It depends on the band availability.
Oh, okay, yeah. Yeah, I'm thinking though that we should consider that if we have to, because council has to approve the exemption, so if we do move it.
We were anxious to get these dates
Yeah.
out there now because it's going to be a paid event and get people
Yeah.
to mark it in their calendars, and then all the the logistics will be done in the coming weeks.
Right. Yeah, well, I guess we have time if we have to come back and add the other date as a backup, so, okay.
Mr. Mayor, that's a good point, Ray. Should we
Could
include
include it.
the option here that if it's a weather, you
Yeah,
know,
we can
related
include- we can include it
issue,
now.
and then they wouldn't have to come back, that, you know, we would grant this exemption for the next available night, whatever the decision is, because it could be a week later. We don't know, right?
Yeah, it wouldn't be a week probably, but I don't know how we would document it, but yeah.
No, I mean, if there's a rainstorm or something Friday and Saturday or something.
So you could designate it as a.
Yes, this night or a backup.
The next available,
Yeah, is that okay? Counselor Keeping, if you're amenable with that, would you be okay with making that
Motion.
amendment to your motion?
I'll make the motion to, in case of backup
Yeah.
for Saturday night, if the weather is bad for Friday night, to do the same hours for Saturday night.
Okay,
Yep,
good.
I think it's good.
Okay, so that's the new motion there. Is that okay, Jessica? Thank you. Any questions there?
Not a question, Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
just a comment. I think this is awesome. I think this is really good. I think we let the residents in the area know by way of a letter, just let them know that, or to remind them a week before that this is going to happen this night, so that they're not, you know, like just all of a sudden get this loud music continuous. I think this is great. I think this is, it's bringing our city into the new century, I think, because everybody's having these, and there's really no reason why we can't too. And I think, you know, I'm not saying my heart goes out to the residents in the area because, you know, like, it is disturbing. But you talk to the people that go there, and you know, they'll all say it's about time. It's about time. This is great. So, you know, once we work out the little, you know, the little wrinkles in it, I think this can go on forever. This is great for our city.
Yeah. Good. Yes.
This is not to do with the motion at hand, but it piqued my interest when Ms. Padden brought up about the call for expressions of interest to do with not-for-profits, charitable organizations. Is that something that we would be able to circulate to the members of the Community Partners Committee? Because many of those are not-for-profit or charitable organizations.
Absolutely, I'm assuming. So, Ms. Patton, that's something that's going out shortly, I guess?
Yes, well, I can get the details for all of you.
Okay, perfect. Thanks so much.
Okay. Okay, let's vote on it. Remember, it's the modified motion to have the backup date. So all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Unminded? Carried. Okay. Next, land acknowledgement. Deputy Mayor.
Mr. Mayor, before you begin, I'd like to declare a conflict of interest. As many may know, I'm now the band manager with Halapu First Nations, so this would probably be putting me in a conflict. I did as well email the city manager several weeks ago and notified him of that and asked him to recuse me of all dealings with anything Halapu that should come through the city, including emails, and make sure staff is aware that I should not be involved in any decision-making process regarding anything to do with the Halapu First Nations. So I would consider this part of that.
In this case, though, I wouldn't. You're a member of a class of people. You set tax rates and you're a taxpayer.
True.
So if you're a member of the band or someone who would be affected by this, just like anyone else in the community. So it's not something specific to Halapu as far as I can tell.
Okay.
Is it?
Mr. Mayor, could I, just for official purposes, ask for a vote then?
Sure,
to-
absolutely. So would someone like to make a motion that the counselor is not in a conflict of interest?
So moved?
Yeah. Okay, a seconder?
I'll second it.
Okay. Okay, all those in favor, say the counselor is not in a conflict.
Aye.
Okay?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, no, I think, yeah.
What? Aye or nay?
Oh, I think he is, I think he's a conflict.
but the vote went in, and
But the vote went in,
I'm
and,
okay with the vote.
yep.
You're in a, so you say nay, though? You didn't vote aye?
No, I didn't.
No, I didn't vote.
said nay.
I said nay.
Okay, good. Yeah, that's
Yep.
fine.
Yep.
Okay, but you're not in a conflict, so, okay, so yes, go ahead, Debbie.
Okay, thank you. Certainly is an exciting one to bring forward, land acknowledgement. Be it resolved to initiate a committee to examine the development of a land acknowledgement to bring back for council consideration and appoint Deputy Mayor Chason as chair of the committee. I so move.
Second, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, any questions on that item?
So, Mr. Mayor, I just want to be clear that I've been not declared in conflict, so I am required to vote.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I said.
I just want to make it clear to the
This is
public, Mr.
not
Mayor.
like a land acknowledgement as far as I'm concerned, it's nothing to do with Halifax specifically. And you know, as someone who identifies as Mi'kmaq, or it doesn't matter, right? So it's not part of your job.
No, I just wanted to make sure we're clear on it,
Yeah.
that's all.
Yeah. I will say, though, that, of course, the land acknowledgement is something that's adapted from indigenous practice, and recognizing another nation's territory is a device that many organizations use, of course, as a way to try and convey respect for indigenous peoples who've lived on this land. And as someone myself of Mi'kmaq ancestry or heritage, I have personal concerns with many land acknowledgements, not all land acknowledgements, but many, that they can be performative. Often land acknowledgements are dashed off at the beginning of meetings, and mindlessly, really. And then it's something to check off the list for no real purpose, and that can seem like lip service in a way. Saying that a land or territory belongs to people without following through can be hypocritical, disingenuous and hurtful, and rarely is there an intent to return the land to the people it singles out. They can relieve non-Indigenous people from responsibility to think about the serious challenges that many Indigenous people across our country face. And I would ask their committee to consider starting off with some self-reflection on this. Why are we considering this land acknowledgement? What are we trying to achieve? Is this about territory, or is it a more general affirmation of support for Indigenous peoples? What actions are we committing to as part of that? Take time to do proper research. What is the history of where we are and who has lived there? And remember that Indigenous people have no responsibility to do the work of creating or performing land acknowledgements. It's not on the people. So what I'm saying is we should consider doing land acknowledgements because other people are is not the right reason to do it. We should come up with something that is not performative. We should come up with, take ample time, and we should learn and reflect on this. So this is something that personally I've struggled with because I do see them often dashed off. It's sort of like something said and then moved on. So I don't want to see that. I want to see something that is meaningful. So I'm looking forward to your committee's work, Deputy Mayor, and look forward to see what council has to consider. Yes?
Mr. Mayor, is there a time frame on the work of the committee? Report back to council, is it sometime within a year, 6 months, 4 months, 3 months?
Well, I think we could leave that to
the council?
Yeah, leave it to me.
Mayor, your committee, if that's okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good?
I
Okay,
just,
so-
I just want to make a comment, I guess, to your comments, Mr.
Yeah.
Mayor, and I didn't bring this forward because everybody else was doing it. Anybody that knows me knows that I don't pull that type of line. I brought it because everywhere I go, people are doing it, and I look at it as a sign of respect. To me, it's to me, and that's the way I feel. And if nobody else in this room feels that way, that's their prerogative. I feel that it's a sign of respect. It takes very little time at the end, and it's certainly not checking something off my list. And I brought this forward several times, but tonight at least is getting the rubber stamp of approval that we can move forward and we can get a committee on the go, and we will have a really good land acknowledgement. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions before we vote? Yes?
Not a question, just a comment that as this moves forward, any direction that this committee takes should be taken from somebody that is of Indigenous background. If you're not Indigenous, this can't be led by someone who's not Indigenous for it to be meaningful.
I don't agree. I think that the deputy mayor's
I'm
quite
leading
capable
it.
of doing this. But
Pardon me?
The other thing is land acknowledgements are not to be done, like, they don't, these people shouldn't have to do the work to create a land acknowledgement for someone. Yes, consultations are needed, but it's something that the seller.
It's in, Mr. Mayor, in my experience, and listen, I'm still learning, but in my employment, we need to be really, where I work, we are very, very, very careful about, like super careful, because it's important to make sure that we're not making decisions that are inappropriate. Like, we need to make sure that what we're doing here is very appropriate. And when I use the word lead, I'm not talking about the person who convenes the committee. I'm talking about somebody who's on the committee who can inform what might be appropriate. Someone who's willing to do, I know we shouldn't ask people to do the work, as you say.
Yeah.
That's also a big no-no. But if there's somebody that we can bring into the process to ensure that we're making sure it is very appropriate how we go forward.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes.
Who would pick the committee? How many would be on the committee? Who would be on the committee?
Well, that's a good question. I guess deputy as chair, I guess that's something that you
Definitely.
should figure out, right? And again, that'll come into the consideration too. So when council's faced with an option, that obviously there has to be careful consideration of who's informing that option. So that's something we'll consider when we get to it, just like we consider legal advice. When we get legal advice from our lawyer, we consider it and say, oh, well, we think we trust our lawyer, right? Right?
So would we give the committee a direction?
Well, I think that, I think to Councilor Grander's question, the first thing is to figure a few things out. So I think we should give her a little leeway to,
Yeah.
to come up with a little plan here. And then, perhaps we could report back to council with
Absolutely.
findings.
Yep,
Okay?
yep.
Does that sound?
To be
Oh, no,
nothing.
I'm just, like all of us, you're asking a question that you're going to be asked,
Yeah, yeah.
right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There'll be nothing done without bringing it back to council, through legal, whatever we got to do to make sure that all our i's are dotted and our t's are crossed.
Good. Yeah. Okay, no other questions? Okay, let's vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Not-minded? Carried. Okay. Now, back to our favorite topic, code of conduct. So, as you all know, we have not passed the code of conduct. We did receive, the city manager and I received a call today from Municipal Affairs, reminding us that we're not in compliance and urging us to find a way forward on this. So we have some options. Council can outline the issues with the code of conduct that was provided and defeated in order for staff to make appropriate changes for council to consider. So then an amended version of the code could come forward for a vote. We did not receive any information last week. The clerk didn't receive anything new last week. So we do need to hear from everyone if we are not satisfied with what's there. The same code of conduct can be brought back again, but then we got to bring a motion to reconsider. So to open a discussion on the old code of conduct, we need 2/3. That's just a matter of rules of procedure. And the other option is we do have a template that was provided by the province. Template was reviewed by staff, and comments have been provided. You all have in your package the comments from our lawyer. And even if council, it is not recommended to adopt that, by the way. But if council does wish to adopt that template, there would have to be some specific changes made to make it compliant with the City of Corner Act. Okay? Yes?
Correction, you said nobody had made any corrections or any comments on, I did.
Did you provide comments on the code of conduct?
I did. I brought down the template. I had stuff written in it. I didn't do it. I had somebody deliver it for me. And I think it was given to City Manager Combe.
Did you provide code?
I didn't do it to everybody. I didn't send it in to everybody.
What? Oh, on the template?
Yes, I did some comments on the template.
Oh, okay, no, well, again, we asked for comments on the document for council, but why would you send comments on the?
Because that was the one that I liked, and I was just,
Did you tell the clerk that?
Did I tell, I didn't deliver it, I was in the hospital and my husband delivered it
Yeah, but
to,
did anyone tell the clerk that that was your preferred to go with that template?
I don't know, city manager Cumby,
Was it, well, the template was received by me,
Yeah,
and I passed it to the clerk.
yeah.
And so, yeah, certainly that's, I
Was there
that's what you
indication
wanted
that
to
that was
do.
the?
There was a note or
Yes.
an email, but I never got an email. I don't
No,
know.
I didn't email, I was in the hospital.
Oh,
I just had to do it on,
No.
by handwriting.
Shouldn't email it, because she was.
But anyway, I just wanted to let you know.
She didn't tell me that today. yeah.
Okay, well, Debbie, thank you for that. I mean, it's, obviously it's a bit confusing, but, well, at least you sent something.
I did send something, that's what I want to
Sent
go on the
something.
record as I had sent
I didn't
something.
receive anything from anyone else, and I don't know that the clerk did.
I never had my iPad with me, so I just wrote it up on the
There
template
was a
that I have.
document,
Pardon me?
there was a document that I received.
Yeah,
But not our code of conduct.
No, it was a.
It was my comments.
My understanding, it was the template, some comments made under each, something like that.
The template that our lawyer said not to use.
but it was before the lawyer said not to use it, Mr. Mayor?
No, actually, the lawyer from the very beginning has said not to use it.
No, but the comments that came from the lawyer were later. This was 9 o'clock. I
Okay,
was
yeah.
in- Friday morning.
Mr. Mayor,
Okay, yes,
I'd like to make a motion, please.
okay, go ahead.
I'd like to move that the City of Corner Brook Council adopt the provincial template with the following edits as suggested by our lawyer, and I'd like to go through them and present them. And if you would indulge me, I'll read each one twice so everybody has a moment to follow them. And all of these are in red on the document that the clerk, I think, sent out to us
Yeah.
with the lawyer's comments.
Yeah,
And at least that'll give us an opportunity to have some discussion. So, Mr. Mayor, starting with the Code of Conduct template for councillors as supplied by the Provincial Municipal Affairs, starting with, obviously, the city name being introduced in the city of Corner Brook, moving on to Section 3 in the document, Standards of Conduct, 3.1.2, I would suggest the following edit. Councillors must work in the best interest of the municipality without regard for their private interests. And again, this is on the suggestion of, recommendation of the city solicitor. So strike personal and replace with private interests. On 3.1.3, I don't really have an issue with that one, Mr. Mayor. I understand what the solicitor is saying, but I don't have an issue with that one. Moving on to 3.1.4, okay? The template reads, councillors must be respectful of the presiding officer, their colleagues, staff, and members of the public. And I would like to strike the three words "at all times" and replace it with, and this is the fourth line down in the red comments, while they are conducting city business in an official capacity as a municipal councillor. So repeat, strike "at all times" and replace with while they are conducting city business in an official capacity as a municipal councillor, including during council meetings and proceedings of the municipality, to continue the phrase. Is that clear? I just want to make sure everybody hears the edit. Okay, I'm going to move on then to 3.1.5 on the next page, Mr. Mayor, page 3. 3.1.5 of the template currently reads, councillors must be prepared for meetings, aware of agendas, informed of issues, and debate, so strike the word contribute to and simply and debate in a manner that is meaningful, candid, honest, and respectful. Insert the word "and" between honest and respectful. So I'll repeat that, Mr. Mayor. Councillors must be prepared for meetings, aware of agendas, informed of issues, and debate in a manner that is meaningful, candid, honest, and respectful, period. And strike the word "and" equitable. So again, following the advice of our solicitor. In 3.16, I have no issue. 3.17, I have no issue with that one either, Mr. Mayor. 3.18, I do have an edit. Councillors must, and strike "in public and private," and simply insert the phrase, when acting in an official capacity, comma, conduct themselves in a manner which does not bring disrepute to themselves, their position, the council, or the municipality. So again, in 3.1.8, councillors must, comma, strike in private and public, and insert when acting in an official capacity, comma, and then the rest of the article, Mr. Mayor. Again, on the advice of our solicitor. Moving on, 3.1.9, I think the solicitor makes a very good point here, Mr. Mayor, and I would move just to strike 3.1.9 completely. I'll provide these to the clerk when we're done as well, Mr. Mayor, if these are acceptable. Which would require us, there's no number changes because the next one goes to 3.2. Okay? So I would just strike altogether 3.1.9. Moving on to page 4. Is that good, Mr. Mayor? Not going too quickly? Okay, moving on to page 4. I don't have any issues with 3.2, use of influence. I think those are fine, and our solicitor has not made any comment on any of those articles. So I'll move on to 3.3, misuse of public assets and fraud. And moving down to 3.3.2, the second item, councillors, and then I would suggest that we strike must ensure and simply replace it with should strive to ensure. So strike a must and replace it with should strive to ensure that the business of the municipality is conducted efficiently and, and strike the word must, should make every attempt to, insert make every attempt to, avoid waste, abuse, and extravagance in the provision of and use of municipal resources. So I'll just repeat that one again, Mr. Mayor, because there's a couple changes there. 3.3.2. Councillors, insert should strive to and strike must, ensure that the business of the municipality is conducted efficiently and strike must again, should make every attempt to avoid waste, abuse, and extravagance in the provision and use of municipal resources. And that is in line with some of the comments from our city solicitor. Moving on, Mr. Mayor, I don't think there's too many more. I don't have anything on page 5. My next concern would be on page 6, Article 3.5, social media. Mr. Mayor, the city draft, the city policy that was drafted, I agree with that article that was in there on social media. So I would just insert for 3.5.1, councillors must strike the rest of that sentence and insert comply with the city's social media policy. Simple enough. 3.5.1, councillors must strike the rest of the article and insert comply with the city's social media policy. And again, Mr. Mayor, that was recommended in the draft of the city policy as was presented a couple weeks ago. Moving on to 3.6.3 under the heading of 3.6 harassment and bullying, 3.6.3, all members of council, and again, I would insert the same suggestion that the solicitor mentioned earlier, all members of council, while they are conducting city business in an official capacity as a municipal councillor, comma, shall treat members of the public, one another, staff, and volunteers appropriately and without abuse, bullying, or intimidation, and to ensure that their work environment is free from discrimination, bullying, and harassment. So again, Mr. Mayor, 3.6.3, all members of council insert the phrase, while they are conducting city business in an official capacity as a municipal councillor, and then continue the rest of the sentence as is, shall treat members of the public, and so on. Okay. Turning to the next page, page 7, Mr. Mayor, under the heading Legislative Compliance, 3.7.1. There are a list of acts there from A to I. I have no issue adding the list that was provided by the staff under the provided, what are we going to call it? The city provided the code of conduct. So there was a list there that included, and I may not have them all, but it included the City of Corner Brook Act, Constitution of Canada Act, and I believe there were maybe one more, I'm not sure. So I have no issue with inserting those as were referenced in the policy that we did not adopt 2 weeks ago. And, Mr. Mayor, I think I'm now turning to page 9, Part 2, Code of Conduct Complaint and Investigation Process. And starting with receiving a complaint number 1, to edit the phrase, a complaint filed under this code of conduct shall be filed with the chief administrative officer I would like to see the word chief administrative officer struck for and be replaced with city manager. This is the correct title. And then I would add the phrase, the city manager shall provide the respondent with a copy of the complaint within 5 working days. And that addresses an issue on the next page. The city manager shall provide the respondent with a copy of the complaint within 5 working days, period. So I just add that to this phrase, and anywhere that the word CAO is, or Chief Administrative Officer, remove that and replace with City Manager. And that appears several times here. The next edit, Mr. Mayor, I had is number 7. And number 7 would be, the City Manager shall not accept any complaint in confidence, period. Okay, and that was a concern raised by our lawyer as well. So number 7, just to rephrase it, the City Manager shall not accept any complaint in confidence. I think that would address that concern, Mr. Mayor. And the next one is just for readability, Mr. Mayor. Number 12 on page 10 under informal resolution. Number 12 starts with an acronym, ADR, which is the Alternative Dispute Resolution. I would like to see that spelled out and then put in brackets after as ADR as an acronym, just for readability. When somebody reads this, the question is, what's an ADR? Okay.
It's in the previous, it's in the previous paragraph.
No, I know that, but just starting a sentence with an acronym is not the best grammar, we'll put it that way. And I think there's just one more, Mr. Mayor, which is number 18. And again, referring to the comments from our solicitor, the investigator will notify the respondent within 5 business days of the failure of informal resolution, period. And strike and provide a copy of the complaint. And that's why, Mr. Mayor, in the previous page, I added that sentence to the 2 pages previous, I added that sentence to number 1, that the city manager would already provide a complaint within 5 days. So number 18, just to edit that, the investigator will notify the respondent within 5 business days of the failure of informal resolution, period, and strike and provide a copy of the complaint. Mr. Mayor, I will happily provide these to the clerk as well once we're done. So, Mr. Mayor, that is my motion. I so move that these edits be adopted along with the template as suggested. Is there any clarification required there, Mr. Mayor,
Yeah,
on
I
any of
think
those
the-
points?
I think the,
Would you like me to reread any of them?
I might have to.
Okay, no problem.
Some of the, I mean, this is great that we're, like, we have a draft prepared by the same lawyer that's providing.
Mr. Mayor, before we get into discussion, can I ask you to ask for a seconder for the motion?
Oh, yes, absolutely, you're right. Who would like to second that?
I'll second, Mr. Mayor.
Okay.
Thank you. So would you like any clarification there, Mr. Mayor?
Yeah,
Could you tell me which ones?
well, I'd like to know specifically, I guess, why wouldn't you use the draft provided by the lawyer directly?
Because as I explained when it was brought forward, I didn't agree with including the media policy in it. I didn't agree with the fact that we weren't consulted before it was brought forward. And I didn't agree with the elections. There was a section in there on the elections and using city property during elections. All these things are covered in current policy, so I didn't see any point in having them in there. Secondly, or thirdly, or fourthly, whatever you want, this is prepared by Municipal Affairs. I'm assuming that, I'm not assuming, I know they conducted this, sent it around, discussed it with municipalities all across the province. They have lots of lawyers and so on to look at this. It's not something they did overnight. So I'm quite fine with that. I found the city one was very, the language was very legalese, if you will, and not as straightforward, cut and dry as this one is. So those are my reasons, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, so you've had this for a month.
Mr. Mayor, can we debate the issue?
I just want to point out that we have a staff here, and we do have a legal counsel who provided the basis of your edits is the same legal counsel that prepared
Yes.
the other draft.
And I'm glad that we finally got a rationale for what was being proposed, and unfortunately, we had to wait for it to come. What we were presented was a document with no input from council. Now, we've had some information from the staff to look at the reasoning that they provided. I agree with a lot of it. I don't have a problem with it. I don't agree with the one that was presented for the reasons I've already stated. So back to my point, Mr. Mayor, would anybody like me to clarify any of those edits that I mentioned?
The investigator that's in section 18, formal investigation,
Which page is that?
on page 11.
Page 11?
Which definition is that referring to, or which?
So that's on a formal investigation?
Informal resolution.
This one is under a formal investigation, Mr. Mayor, number 18.
No, it says failure of informal resolution.
Yes, but it's under the heading formal investigation, so it says the
Yes.
investigator will notify the respondent within 5 days of the failure of informal resolution.
That's right.
This is going through the formal process. So as the formal process starts, city manager or the investigator would have 5 days to notify the respondent
Right.
that the informal one has not been accepted.
Do we have any idea of whether or not the suggestions line up with the timelines that staff considered for the investigation?
This, I'm just going by what the city solicitor suggests.
Yeah, but besides what the city solicitor said was wrong with this one, there was a number of things added to include timelines
Yeah.
for when is the city manager supposed to go?
Yeah, on this one, Mr. Mayor, there was no reference to the time. It was simply saying that this is too far along the process to provide a copy of the complaint. So if you recall, Mr. Mayor, back on page 9,
Yep.
receiving a complaint, I asked to add a sentence that said, within 5 days of receiving the complaint, the city
Which
manager
section
would
was that again?
notify. Pardon me?
Which section?
Page 9.
Page 9, number 1,
Yep.
receiving a complaint. So I asked that we would add, to alleviate the problem on number 18, a complaint filed under the Code of Conduct shall be filed with the city manager. The city manager shall provide the respondent with a copy of the complaint within 5 working days, which I believe is under the current code of the city right now, that the city manager has 5 days to provide the respondent with the complaint. So that's consistent with what we have.
Do you have a copy of the?
The current draft, yeah.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I'm not going to vote on something that was just read out to me. Like, I'm sorry, but we've been given documents to review, as you say, for weeks. And now I'm expected to vote on something that somebody just read out to me like I'm sitting in a classroom. I'm not going to support, I'm not voting, like, I think, I need to see it written. I need to review it before I can vote on it. The same, it needs to be provided to me the same way that staff provided the original to me.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
maybe Councilor Pender can provide his notes to the clerk
Okay?
to write it up,
Yep.
and
No
then we
problem.
can consider that. Is that something that someone would?
But I prefer to vote on it, Mr. Mayor, and then if there's any amendments that somebody would like to bring forward.
Mr. Mayor,
no issue with
absolutely
that.
not. Absolutely not. It's
Fine.
completely disrespectful to
No,
this
I
council.
just- Yeah, please, in order. I do find.
But I don't have a problem passing it on, Mr.
No, I think that, I think it's somewhat ironic that there was a complaint that we didn't have time to review it, although we got it before the meeting, in writing, and now we want to consider a question that we haven't provided in writing.
We didn't, well, this was sent to us the other day, but I'm fine with that, Mr. Mayor, I don't have a problem with that.
Yeah.
This was sent to us Friday, I guess? This did come out to us last week with the,
Yeah, I would assume our lawyer would never have thought that she would have to provide critique of someone else's document after having helped prepare a document for council's consideration. Council got this
as I
up-
said, Mr. Mayor, we had no involvement in the other one. so I
Council
can't
got this
speak
on
to it.
February 8th. There was a meeting, 2 meetings to discuss this. The first meeting, there were some points brought forward by Councilor Yu, and I think Councilor Brander brought forward some concerns about not feeling part of the process. Then there was some rationale. There was another request to provide some information on what the concerns were. It wasn't very clear. Subsequently, in the next meeting, no one would debate it.
Because we already, and from my point of view, Mr. Mayor, I won't speak for anybody else, I had already made my points on it, I didn't see anything changed.
But there was no, like, okay.
And
yes.
Mr. Mayor, as I said numerous times, I'm not going to be sending all this through emails, I'm not debating in emails, I'm not
But you're
sending
going to
things in
send
emails.
the
This is the
clerk-
place where this should
So
happen.
you couldn't provide the clerk with that documentation beforehand, so we could have something to talk about?
Well, Mr. Mayor, my experience has been that if we ask to add something to the agenda ahead of time, it's usually refused, so just bring it
We
here.
have process for that.
Exactly.
Yeah, and.
But it's
and again,
refused. My experience,
The
Mr.
deputy
Mayor.
asked for an item this week, no problem, it was within the timelines and the guidelines.
Anyway, Mr. Mayor, I'm not debating, I made a motion, it's been seconded.
Again, is anyone interested in making a suggestion that we don't vote on this now? And we put it forward for, like I said.
I'd like to know-
I'm happy to vote for this.
No,
I'm
but
happy
before we
to
go
vote
there,
for this.
Mr. Mayor, may I make this suggestion?
Yeah.
I'm happy to know if anybody, if they didn't hear what I said, like, is there any questions on what I read out, number one? And secondly, if they have any comments on any of those things. Like,
Well,
I'd like to know
well, I
that,
guess-
because this is the place to hear it.
Well, I guess you've moved this with these changes. Does anyone have any concerns with the document? In
Just
other
what they
ways-
heard tonight, like, is there anything,
No, but in other ways. I mean, there might be other aspects of this that you might have concerns with, not necessarily what Councilor Pender has decided to suggest.
Absolutely.
Right?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, it was.
if I had known we were going to be debating the template instead of the document that has been placed before us, I would have done due diligence and concentrated more on the template. But I didn't realize that there was anything coming to us today. I didn't pay enough attention to the document that Councilor Pender has verbally amended. I don't have photographic hearing, or whatever it's called. So I can't, I did have a few questions. I can't remember what points they were in that document because I don't have it in front of me to annotate. And so therefore, I am not prepared to vote on something that's been presented orally to me. I need to look at it. I need to compare it to other things. I need to do my due diligence, similar to the due diligence I did last time when I submitted a fairly lengthy analysis of the issues that had been presented, and nobody responded to me. So
Mr. Mayor,
I
that's
would
a fair
like,
point.
I would, just if I could finish,
Sorry.
I would like to make the suggestion that after we've all had the template with the amendments written down, and we have at least a week to mull it over and give feedback, I'd be happy to do that. But I'm not happy to vote on anything that's just been presented to me without even a flip chart.
Oh, sure.
So, Mr. Mayor, that is a fair
Yes, sir.
point. I was going to suggest that we do that,
Do what?
as the councilor suggested. I have
Okay,
an
so you want to
issue.
amend your motion then?
I can amend the motion that it be brought back in what, when's our next meeting?
Next meeting.
2 weeks.
In 2 weeks' time? I don't have a problem with that, Mr. Mayor, I think that's fair, and I will say that I don't respond to emails from councilors anymore, I don't find it to be a safe space, so if people are putting stuff in an email, I won't be responding to it.
Sorry.
But if we want
Sorry,
to bring
wait a
this,
second. You
if
don't
we want to
respond
bring this forward at the next meeting, I'm fine with that, Mr.
Councilor,
Mayor.
just.
I
you
don't appreciate some of the comments that come through emails, Mr. Mayor, I'm not going to read them.
Okay, that's fine, but you don't respond to emails from councilors?
No, just staff, Mr. Mayor, I don't read the ones from councilors anymore. That's as simple as that. I don't appreciate some of the comments that I read, whether directed at me or somebody else. So, moving on, Mr. Mayor, I'm prepared to amend my motion to say I can provide this to the clerk, have it reviewed, and is that okay with everyone else?
Counselor,
Is that okay with you, Mr. Mayor?
again, you have to communicate to me. I've asked counselors.
When I
for-
find that they're respectful, Mr. Mayor,
I've
I will
found
do so.
counselors, again, okay, any emails you want that aren't respectful from me, give them away. But I will tell you that how many times have I asked counselors for questions? And I received zero feedback, not even on this, enough to say, no, I don't want to do any of it. Forget it. We had a meeting, an MP was in town, wanted to meet with council last week, and I forwarded on the request, and I had 2 counselors say that they couldn't make it or whatever. The rest of council provided nothing, zero, zip. And then when the person came, I couldn't tell them, well, sorry, I'm available.
Mr. Mayor.
So I think that this is the that type of communication, with all due respect, even if you feel that you should file a complaint.
I'm not doing that anymore, Mr. Mayor, that's a waste of time.
You
But I
need
will
to
say,
complain.
Mr. Mayor, I will say, if the
I'm
clerk
speaking.
sends it out, I do read it.
I'm speaking.
That's fine. But I won't be chastised either, Mr. Mayor.
Listen,
I said my point. Can we move on?
I would suggest you should start checking and responding to your email and be courteous of your councilors and the mayor.
And Mr. Mayor, I will say that if you have a meeting or anything you wish to notify us of, I'll read it from the clerk or the city manager or anybody else. That's fine.
That's unbelievable. Okay, that's good.
Mr. Mayor, reference to your commentary with regard to last week. I was out of the country from Monday until Friday night, and I received this information when I got back in the country. So I didn't respond. And one point on your initial email, one of the reasons I didn't respond over the weekend, because I couldn't understand your commentary with regard to your email that you sent out, and in all due respect to staff and yourself, but I wasn't about to engage in an email on Saturday or Sunday with regard to this. Bring the code with revisions for discussions. Councillors could send their issues to the clerk. Please include section numbers, I understand all that, and let her create a revised version using her judgment.
Yeah.
And using her judgment, and not criticizing anyone. And what I'm saying is that some things that I could have sent in the email could have been included. Some things I want included may not have gotten included.
Yeah.
That's the way I looked at that. So I chose not to respond via email.
But again, Councillor?
But I'm just simply saying, you asked a question why people didn't respond. I told you why I didn't respond. I was out of the country for all of last week, and when I got back, I read this email, and I got a copy of this, read that. And in this, the suggestions were from the director, the CEO, that it was one up to three. Number one we could do, number two we could do, number three we could do, and I was intent and looked at number three. And if history shows itself, Mr. Mayor, when we discussed the code of conduct in the previous council, I made the suggestion at that point in time, knowing that there was a template coming from the department, and I suggested that the city would wait the months and to wait for that template, and then we would develop our code of conduct based on a template from the department. And I still stand by that.
Again, in my conversation with the department today, we chatted about this thing. They told me that, yes, they did not anticipate this being used by some of the larger municipalities. It was a guideline document. I don't know what the phrase that the clerk, you were told this was called, rather than a template.
A template or a guidance document.
A guidance document. So as we said in previous meetings, this is something that the city of St. John's, Paradise, Happy Valley Goose Bay, Torbay, numerous other large municipalities have used. So this is not something that, again, would withstand, and as Councillor Pender suggested, and went through a number of changes based on that commentary. So
I think I made 8 changes out of the 40-odd, whatever articles are there.
yeah, there are some there too that probably the solicitor wouldn't. And that's my concern. Listen, I'll vote for anything at this point. I'm not in fear of this of any kind. But I think that I'm concerned that these changes that were suggested by or these problems that the solicitor saw, clearly are there to protect us. Because there are some things there that are relatively arbitrary in nature. So you could be accused of something that is in the code, but it might not stand up, say, in a court of law. So this is why I think it is important to have some time for the changes you recommended to be reviewed by the solicitor once again.
So, Mr. Mayor, just to go back, if you don't mind,
Yeah.
as Councillor Granter just said, there are 3 options here. So I responded to the 3rd option, which says, however, council wishes to adopt a template, there are some fundamental changes that need to be made to the template in order for it to fit. And so you're asking for input, so I thought I would provide some. That's simple as that. So I will not accept the policy that was presented earlier, but if you want to take my edits and have the solicitor and city staff look at the provincial template and make their suggestions as well, I think all council will be quite happy to read those.
Mr. Mayor.
Well, that'll be the question, I guess.
Mr. Mayor, I want to be clear when I referenced your email, and I made the statement with regard to the judgment of the clerk. The clerk is doing a wonderful job. The acting clerk is doing a wonderful job. But it's putting the clerk in a position to have to decide on what she or the clerk would put in and not put in, is my point of view. I think the assistant clerk is doing a wonderful job, as staff are doing, but putting someone in a position whereby they would edit what I would send in an email back and forth without having the opportunity to even discuss it here, which we're doing here tonight. So I don't want the clerk to feel that her work is not appreciated, because it is. But putting her in a position to have to decide what goes in the document and what doesn't go in the document based on.
Yeah, but that's their job, is to work with the clerk, the other assistant clerk and the lawyer to try and draft something. So clearly, 4 counselors here thought this document wasn't acceptable, didn't clearly define what was wrong with the document. There was no, I didn't see here any consolidated opinion here. I didn't hear any reason that was shared between, say, Councillor Pender and Councillor Keeping on what was wrong here. So this is why providing that feedback and allowing staff and our lawyer to be able to draft something that they think reflects, oh, I understand the problem here, here's something that maybe council will consider.
Mr.
But
Mayor,
we really don't have a clue.
I disagree, Mr. Mayor. I
Mr.
stated
Mayor.
very clearly in the first meeting what I didn't agree with.
We did.
Well, under
Very clearly.
Like what, again, repeat it again.
Again, I said I did not agree with the media policy being included in the document we were presented. I did not agree with the the elections policy being included. But fundamentally, Mr. Mayor, I did not agree with the fact that we didn't have this discussion that we're having now, and we're presented with the document and said, you should adopt this without any input, any understanding of where the articles were coming from, why were they. In the document that we received Friday with the solicitor's comments, now I understand what some of the issues are. But I wasn't given that opportunity,
Okay, I
Mr.
think
Mayor.
this is a fundamental.
And if I can finish.
This is a fundamental.
And if I can finish, Mr.
You will
Mayor.
let me finish, I'm the chair.
Well, you asked
Okay,
me, you gave me
you
the floor.
finish.
So
You
my
said-
other point is, we haven't had any training on this yet, Mr. Mayor.
Quiet.
So I would like to have some training before we proceed. Okay?
One more time. Okay?
Very respectful, Mr.
Be
Mayor.
quiet.
Very respectful.
Remove him, please.
Seriously.
Yep. You've been told. You will respect the chair, and part of
I certainly do respect the chair, Mr.
the
Mayor.
commentary that's
goes
in
both
this
ways.
document, part of the commentary that's in the document you're recommending,
Yes.
says you will respect the presiding officer.
And you will respect everyone else.
Out.
You don't see me slamming my hands on the table.
Out.
There will be a complaint on that one, Mr. Mayor.
Out.
Yeah.
Fill your boots. Another $5,000. Go for it.
Not as much as was spent before, I suspect. Thank you. Good night, everyone. Can I have permission to come back and get that later?
No, you should take it all now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Take it.
And I assume everybody else agrees with your actions.
Well, as chair here, I try to keep things in order, and I can't have some people talking over me, so.
Can I deliver this to the clerk?
You can drop it on our desk.
Oh, I won't be going there next. I'll give it to the city manager.
Whatever you like.
Right now, if you do that. So those are my edits.
Yes. Okay, thank you. Yes, Deputy Mayor.
It's not funny, Mr. Mayor. It's not funny when, I guess, to be told to be quiet, and then when you don't and you have somebody removed, we should be able to feel that this is a space where we can have disagreement, we can express our opinions, and we can feel that this is a safe space for all of us to do that. I'm just going to, that's my comment. Councillor Gill, when we debated that code of conduct the first time, Councillor Gill watched the meeting and sent out each one of us some stuff that she felt that we should, I guess she justified or made a reason why, or debated what we had said into an email. She actually named every one of us. She started with Pender, Granter, or me, and there was only 3 of us that was told what we do. So we did debate that first code of conduct. The next week when it came back and it wasn't changed, we decided then to just sit. I mean, why are we going to debate this again? So when, in 2021, when the city code of conduct came out, I voted against it.
Yeah.
Based on the fact, there was 3 of us voted on it, based on the fact that the provincial government was going to send out a template. I did not like that code of conduct that came out in 2021, and I didn't like it when it was presented here again.
Okay.
And I gave you my reasons.
I don't remember them.
Well, I gave some that night at the thing. You don't remember them? I remember them. And if you want to go back and check Councillor Gill's email, she did name the things that we brought up at that meeting. So I did have my say at that time. To think the night that we're sitting here, and as Councillor Pender, I suppose I'm allowed to mention his name now that he's removed, you did send out 3 options. When I looked at the code of conduct that came before us in 2023, almost identical to the one that came out in 2021. I was not accepting it.
But
I
why?
didn't do it then. I didn't like it, and I gave you my reasons, and here they are, Mr.
The
Mayor.
reason you mentioned weren't in the code of conduct in 2021.
There was lots of different reasons. Anyway,
They weren't in it.
No.
You mentioned $100 for the gifts.
No,
wasn't
that
even
was not in it, but
You
I-
mentioned anything about using city resources?
I said it was
Wasn't in it?
almost the same, Mr. Mayor. Almost the same.
Can we just move on with this? Go
No,
ahead. Go
no,
ahead.
I'm
Go
not
ahead.
finished.
I'm telling you, go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. So when I got the code of conduct and the template, I compared the two. I called around to ask municipalities what they were doing. Many were following the code of conduct with some revisions
Right.
into the code of conduct. Thursday night, I sat with my code of conduct over in the hospital, the template along with the one you did. I wrote
I
it
didn't
down.
do it.
No,
Oh, you- no,
the
just
city did it.
clarify.
Okay.
Don't go saying I did it.
No,
because
the
I
one
think
that was
that's-
done.
I think
Sorry,
that's-
Mr. Mayor.
No, but I think that's the reason why some people are voting against this. 'cause
I'm
somehow
not
it was
voting against it
perceived that I did
because whoever did it, that's
Yeah.
getting down in the weeds and the dirt,
So
Mr. Mayor.
But you are part of this. You are a counselor.
I was not part of the code that was sent out from the city.
No, but you are part of the city.
I know I'm part of the city, and I hope I'm a good part of the city, and I feel that I'm doing a good job. I am in favor of a code of conduct, but the code of conduct that I want, when I looked at this one, it was clear, concise, and to the point. When the solicitor sent out the revisions that went into it, I had no problem with it. I wrote on the code, on this one here, my revisions on this one here. That was it. So, Mr. Mayor, I'm not against the code of conduct.
So we never did get to it because I didn't know we were going to debate this tonight. But what were your revisions to the document?
I know I replaced some of the wording into it. I didn't have anything from the solicitor at that time. I changed a couple of different things into it, Mr. Mayor. I don't even have it here. I asked to have the definitions brought back from the one in the city and things like that. It was several little tweaks that I made to it and sent it in. And I did. It was sent in, it was delivered here. So I did take part in it. But no, I do not like the city code of conduct.
Okay. Yes?
Mr. Mayor, I'll just make one final comment. In retrospect, I think that with all that years of leadership in issues that are potentially contentious, that are really impacts city councillors and or the city, an issue like that, in retrospect, if we were all put in a room at a meeting, a private room, to be able to go through all of this as a part of a, not PD, but as a part of a session or sessions, to hammer out back and forth and then bring forward a document, we probably would have been through this 3 weeks ago or a month ago and would have met the deadline of March the 1st that government expected. So I just throw it out there in retrospect, that if we were all involved from the ground up, not able to respond to a piece of work that was done, especially something really potentially contentious, that's any of what we're debating tonight, we might have all been better off, Mr. Mayor.
But
That's
now,
all I'm saying.
You understand that we do things in a transparent manner as much as possible here, right? So private meetings to talk about what should be a very...
Mr. Mayor, when I said private meeting, I meant like on a Saturday, a PD session, where we're having a committee, we have committee of the whole, or we could have had a session on developing this policy, we could have all been involved with it, and we could have all brought it forward at a public meeting, and we could have debated, and we would have all understood, like Councillor Gill brought up tonight, not knowing what Councillor Bender just went through.
But we've been 2 meetings in a month since then, Councillor.
Mr. Mayor,
It's been 2 meetings.
I understand what you're saying. I guess we'll agree to disagree on that.
We have to do these things in public.
We'll agree. I agree 100%.
Yeah.
We have to do things in public.
Not behind closed doors.
And we have to do things, Mr. Mayor, where every council member are involved.
Yeah. And
Exactly.
This is the room, and this is the council.
And we need to be a part of the process from the ground up, always, always. And that's my point on this one, that there was a piece of work done, and we could have had this solved and moved on by March the 1st, as government requested, if we were part of that process. And I said it from the beginning.
You were part of this process.
Not a part of the process from the very beginning.
Our lawyer drafted a code of conduct based on
Fair enough.
looking at what's around, what was required in the act. I don't know that any of us would ourselves, or as a group, be able to draft anything.
Well, we're debating it here tonight,
Yeah.
right?
Well, no, we're debating something, another document now. But
I guess, Mr. Mayor, we agree to disagree. And I guess my point simply is, when you involve people in a process, as much as we can, we always end up with a better result. And
Yeah.
probably a faster result.
Yeah.
And whether the timeframes, whether we did it there at the table or at a Saturday meeting, because I said many times before, I'm available any night of the week and any day on the weekend to sit down and go through policy and work with this council for the betterment of the city of Corner Brook. I'll do it any time at all.
Well,
Reach out to me anytime at all. You want a meeting and sit down and debate, discuss, call me to your office, whatever you want to do, and we can talk about it in public. No issue whatsoever. I'm saying just, we need to be involved in the process.
Councilor, you've been asked multiple times this month to provide feedback to the clerk. You've been in three meetings now.
I explained-
Last meeting, you provided no feedback.
I explained to you, Mr. Mayor, in reading your email last week, your email said, respond to me as ASAP.
To let me know what you want to do.
ASAP, and I told you I was out of the country until Friday night.
Yeah.
And by ASAP would have been Saturday and Sunday. When I read that email to the last part with regard to the judgment,
Yeah.
using an own judgment, I said, I'm not going to respond to that in writing. I'll do it at the public meeting.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Yes,
Can I make a motion
we have a motion on the table, I think.
to delay the
To bring-
motion?
No, the motion is to bring forward the
You read it?
document
Yep.
as
Presented.
suggested
With the suggestions and the edits.
to a
Public meeting.
next meeting, right?
Yep.
That's correct?
Oh.
Okay. So that's what we have in front of us.
Yep.
Okay?
Mr. Mayor, I have my hand up.
Oh, sorry, yes.
Honestly, I'm drained, really, I'm drained. I don't know if we're trying to make things work, or we're trying to build it up or break it down. I really don't know. I don't understand where we're going. I really don't. My thing is, what I've heard many times is, don't be bringing stuff in to a meeting and expect us to vote on it. We need time to read it, to adjust to it, to look at everything. And to me, that's what I heard tonight. And it's the same person that, or one, no, I'll just go with, it's the same person that makes that argument all the time. I don't understand that. You either believe or you don't believe. I mean, like, for me, the code of conduct is about a safety workplace. If we call the CAO, city manager, I don't really care. Don't care. As long as we talk to the man with respect. That's not enough to turn down, but we got to be able to come in here and be safe in here, and that's, to me, that's what the code is. I don't understand, it's, to me, you know what? Parking in the handicap zone, they could put a fine on that for $10,000. I don't care. You know why? Because I ain't parking there. I ain't gonna do it, it's not gonna happen. So, when we're picking through the code of conduct, and we're going through this and going through that, if we follow the rules, if we're respectful to each other, I mean, that's, why do we need all these 3 meetings on a document? Doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make no sense. To me, I don't understand it. I don't understand it. Like, I was called names in here, nobody said a word. Nobody said a word. Right? And I made another point after, when we finished the meeting, and I brought it forward, nobody said a word. So, where are we? Where are we? I mean, like, I'm honestly, I go home from our meetings now, I'm drained, but I haven't got an ounce of energy left in me. Because it was like we're pushing on the rope and some are pulling on the rope, we're all, And it just is, we don't seem, it's not getting any better. And our city is suffering for it.
This is
We're not
what
going, we're not getting anywhere, and we may have our reasons, I don't, you know, I'm no disrespect to my friends across the way. I'm sure they got their reasons, but we got to get the business done. And we're just, to me, we're just not getting it.
Yep.
Mr. Mayor,
Thank
just
you.
one comment.
Yes, absolutely.
I
Go ahead.
I again agree with a lot of what Councillor said, and I don't have any issue with regard to bringing this back next week to vote on it. And I too have argued that we should all be given time to be able to digest documents and those kinds of things, no matter who brings them forward, whether it's you bringing them forward, Mr. Mayor, or
I don't
staff,
bring-
no,
I
or
don't
staff,
bring
or
them
staff
forward.
bringing them forward, Mr. Mayor,
Yeah.
through you,
Yeah.
at a public meeting. So I don't have an issue with what Councillor Pender presented tonight, to go back and have it revised and brought back and have a look at it and debate it and either accept it or not accept it. And I agree with Councillor that it's okay to send stuff back to, for another week or another week and a half.
Absolutely.
And we've had incidents in the past and where I've asked
Yeah,
to send stuff back,
yeah.
and it never got sent back, and it got voted, it got passed on, and then we live with the consequences.
But you've
So
had
to go-
items as well brought forward
Absolutely.
and postponed, right?
Absolutely. Oh, absolutely, Mr.
Yeah,
Mayor.
so-
I'm not arguing, and I am too for a code of conduct.
Yeah.
I want the code of conduct, I want to get through it as quickly as we can. I just want the residents of the city to know that. But I agree with Councillor as well. We need time to digest, and to vote on that this evening, we'll be better off delaying it and getting it written up, and we can have a good read of it, like Councillor Gill said, and then we can make a decision next week, one way or the other, or 2 weeks from now.
So we've got so we have a motion here to bring it forward next week, so to postpone basically.
2 weeks.
To
right?
bring
But-
forth and
But in the
bring it
meantime, we're going to get a copy of that for you, and we'll
Yes.
bring it forward next time. Okay?
So do we have the vote on that?
So do we have, no, we have to vote on that, so there is I guess the motion is to postpone it and bring it forward.
Bring
So-
forward a document. that-
Yeah.
Based on those revisions.
Yeah.
Yes, Mr.
So,
Mayor. yeah.
okay,
That's-
so we
that's
have
it.
a motion on that, and now that it's revised, I don't know who seconded it initially.
I second it. No, I did the initial, yes,
Yeah.
I did the initial one.
You did,
Yep.
and you're fine with the amended?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
I think it's
so-
fair. I think it's really fair. Councillor
Okay.
Gill brought it up.
So we're going to bring forward something next week, okay? Is everyone clear on that? Good?
Yes, sir.
Okay, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Counter-minded? Oh, yes, sorry, yeah.
I'm
Sorry, I didn't give you a comment.
Motion, there's enough debate, but I wanted to address council.
Yes?
First of all, there's been a number of questions made here about the process,
Yeah.
and I'm here to defend the process. The process that we followed would have been no different than any other municipality, most other municipalities in the province. I can't say if a small town of 200 sat down and debated this amongst themselves, but I know the larger municipalities didn't. What we did, I asked the clerk today, I said, how many hours do you think you got in on this, 50, 60? She said at least. The former clerk, you know, the actual clerk, she has that many hours as well. The legislative assistant has that many hours. They went to the training sessions on this, where the template was presented, and they talked about this, sat down and talked about it with the other municipalities. There were a number of Zoom meetings. I didn't attend any of these. I felt that we were well at hand with the people that we had. They brought forward the document after it had been reviewed by our lawyers, and they asked me to review it. I reviewed it. I asked a couple of questions about why is this way and why is this way, and they answered them to my satisfaction, and I was prepared to recommend it to council on that. That is no different than what we did with the municipal staff piece, or what I would do with the operating agreement with regards to Grenville College. These are the processes we take. But if this is not the way council would like to do them, I would like to have some instructions on how we do them going forward. That's my only comment, because the process has been questioned, and I feel I have to defend it.
Yeah.
And I'm not here to debate the issue,
No.
but just, I'm
again,
here to.
That is my frustration as well, city manager.
But that's not to say the council can't change a process. But, like, I don't know if going forward now that we should spend this kind of hours on something, if that's not what council wants. So really, I'd like for, that question to be contemplated by all. I don't have the answer tonight, obviously. I'm not expecting an answer, but tonight, but it's something that I sort of need going forward.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Our business being done?
Yep.
Let's go.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Did we vote?
All right.
Address.